active. And as usual, my resident analysts are raring to go as we take a look at this week's hot topics in the world of business. And I'll be introducing them shortly. Let's first begin with a look at this main story that did develop through this week, and it's on the sugar sector. Well, the Kenya National Alliance of Sugarcane Farmers Organization has appealed to the President to hold the implementation of the Sugar Taskforce report, terming it shallow and inconsiderate of farmers' needs. Speaking in Kisumu today, actually that was last evening, KNAFSO chairperson Saulo Busolo called on the new agriculture CS, Peter Munya, to engage cane farmers and possibly review the contentious zoning policy which had been opposed by farmers during the validation meetings. The farmers also pointed out that in light of devolution, the report failed to capture the composition of the proposed sugar board, which was previously attached to the national government.
We noted the absence of farmer representation, resulting into KNAFSO forming a complementary task force to document farmers' views. We are, however, not happy that the release report has not taken into consideration fundamental farmers' issues. The first one is lack of farmer representation in the sugar task force. There was only one representative of the farmer who has gone on record that his views were never considered. This is why the report is skewed to benefit millers and the various government bodies while bringing farmers to be exploited. In the same task force report, on page 69, they have quoted an authority from court rulings that the object of incorporation of farmers' representatives in AFA is to ensure that the farmers who are the major stakeholders in the agriculture industry participate in the process of decision-making in the said industry. This has clearly never been the case and has intentionally not to be considered for the future either. For many years, farmers have been taken for granted due to the lack of organization, while their leadership are gangs for hire by various millers and government bodies. It is due to this that KNAFSO, under its umbrella, brings together all farmers and organizes a strong voice until farmers' issues are taken care of.
In a very interesting update from the sugar sector, of course, the President had received the report, and there's a lot of expectations from this report. At the same time, what does it really mean in terms of reviving the ailing sugar sector? Joining me right now in studio, I'm honored to have with me our resident analyst, and that is Ken Gishinga, Chief Economist and also CEO for Mentoria Economics. We're also joined by Wahoro Ndoho, who also wears several hats. For today, I'll just refer him with his immediate past title, the former Director General at the National Treasury in charge of debt. Thank you, gentlemen, for making time for us. And the Sugar Task Force report has been a long way coming. Finally, the report is out. Remember, the President earlier this year did issue a number of reforms that are targeting to spur economic activity. And from where you sit, Ken, this Sugar Task Force report, does it hold the magic bullet to saving this once vibrant sector that Kenyans really want to see back up on its feet?
Well, thank you, Abby. I think they've had enough time. The task force was set up in November 2018, so they've had well over 1 year and 3 months to collect ideas. And when I read the report, it has some positive things, such as farmers being paid within 7 days, which I think is a commendable thing. But you're right, the issue of the zoning policy seems to be very troublesome because it locks you in terms of a farmer of where you can sell your produce and you can't access the highest bidder. So in a way, it makes you uncompetitive as a farmer, and many farmers didn't like that. So I think part of the validation process has to be really revising that before it's implemented, because as it is, many farmers feel they'll be thrown out of the sugarcane business.
Some say, Wahoro, this report favors the sugar millers instead of the farmers. Looking at the proposals, as Ken did mention, of course, there's the zoning issue, there's privatization, and there's introduction of the sugar levy. From your observations, is it a report that would really re-inject the much-needed impetus that the sugar industry desires?
Well, that's, I think we've been around this marble bush several times. To my mind, and at the risk of repeating myself, once a government is both a referee and a player in the market.
Yes.
It distorts the mechanisms that a market should resolve. And so in my view, no, the short answer is no. I know there was a time there was a big movement towards the government getting out of business completely. And in fact, I think there's even a point of not only just reconsolidating government-owned enterprises, but actually the government privatizing them so that it would get out of that whole business. But the fact that these millers have historically always proven to be underperformers and non-performers. Just take the issue of maintenance of factories.
Yes.
The issue of operating at capacity so that they can take as much cane as possible.
Yes.
They've almost never succeeded in that. And so I keep going back to the what is really, I think, a best economic rational position, and that is government should just get out of this. Now, as far as the report is concerned, you would think that the most critical player in this whole thing is the farmer. Now, once the farmer has grown his cane, he should have the freedom in a free economy to sell to whoever he wants. But the fact that he can't do that means you're already introducing inefficiencies that will just perpetuate this situation. And second, the government really doesn't have the wherewithal financially anymore to prop up these organizations.
Yes.
And so again, it has immediate long-term budget implications, which I fear have not been addressed. And this report, if you were to ask me, I have to ask who else is behind it. I mean, what other interests are not being talked about up front? Because clearly, it's not serving the best economic interest of the farmer, who is the whole reason this thing exists.
Sure. And gentlemen, we want to go on a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'd like to also pick your thoughts on to privatize or not, because on one end we run the risk of exposing our sugar sector to heavy imports, for the simple reason that the millers will, in many quarters we've had the various lobby groups saying that we don't have capacity, even if we privatize, in terms of meeting the demand. This will naturally lead to a deficit, which will be cured by having imports to substitute for the deficit. I would like to get your thoughts on this, gentlemen, as we take this quick commercial break. We still have much more coming up. Keep it here on KTN.